Hey everyone, this is Yoni here from ControlUp 7.2 webinar. I'm really happy and excited to do this. I think you guys are going to find the new features we added in 7.2 are rather interesting. My name is Yoni Avital. I'm the COO and one of the co-founders here at the company. And today we're going to basically highlight all the major new features in 7.2. We're also going to cover some of the new analytics reports and insights. And I do have a small surprise for you guys. I'm also going to show a sneak peek of some of the major features coming in 7.3. So stay with us. It's going to be pretty interesting. So we'll just start, for the sake of the guys who are not familiar with ControlUp, I'll start with a brief company overview. So we've been around since 2011. I'm really happy to share with you guys that we've grown really fast over the last few years. So we're a bit more than 100 employees these days, which is really great. Our HQ is based in San Jose, and development product and the other product-related teams are based in Israel, which is where I'm sitting, by the way, right now. I'm also happy to update that our customer growth has been tremendous over the years. We're about to cross the 1,000 enterprise customers mark, which is really great for us. We are seeing a really strong adoption of the large enterprises. We recently onboarded customers like Aetna and T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T and huge names, and it's super exciting to see them joining, which is great. Apart from the great customer acquisition rates, we also see our business partner relationship growing really fast. So for the longest time, we were a huge Citrix partner, and we keep expanding this alliance more and more. And I'm happy to update that the other vendors we are working with are also gaining traction in our customer base. So I'm speaking obviously about VMware and Nutanix. You will see that we have added Nutanix Acropolis integration in 7.2, and obviously Microsoft as being a long-standing partner throughout the years. I'll try to describe in a nutshell what we do here, but obviously the main dish of this webinar will be around the live demo. So just again, for the sake of guys who are not familiar with us, I would say that if I try to describe ControlUp in one sentence, it would be we enable our customers to fix issues faster, right? We are first and foremost visibility and troubleshooting tool. And we do that by providing real-time visibility across the entire estate, whether it's a more traditional VMware-based data center, or if it's a more modern IaaS-based estate in the public cloud. We offer full real-time visibility all the way from the hypervisor layer, all the way to individual processes running inside guest OSs. We have a strong integration with VDI environments, whether it's Citrix or VMware, and you will see that as part of the demo. And we keep expanding our data collectors to provide more visibility to different components in the data center. So, in the recent years, we have added support for NetScaler, for Amazon EC2. In 7.2, we added support for Nutanix Acropolis, as mentioned a minute ago, and going forward, we're going to integrate with more and more services. Besides the real-time visibility and remediation actions, we also provide a very robust analytics platform called ControlUp Insights. We will get that as part of the live demo, and I will show you some of the new features we have added recently, which are pretty great. So before the live demos, I do want to quickly cover the ControlUp architecture. So essentially, we support two types of deployment mode. The first one, which is by far the most common one, would be what we call the hybrid cloud approach. And it basically looks like this, right? So in the customer environment, we are running mainly three major components. The first one would be the ControlUp real-time console itself. This would be a single executable you can download from our website. It will run locally on the sysadmin endpoint, or some customers are hosting this on RESH or Xenap servers. The .NET console runs mostly in memory, and it's connected directly to the various data sources we have support for. This includes our very own agent, which run inside the guest OSs. We include data collectors for hypervisors, for NetScalers, for VDI infrastructures, Amazon, and obviously we support any physical Windows device. The other component running at the customer site would be the ControlUp Monitor service, which runs as a Windows service on dedicated servers, and it's in charge of 24/7 alerting and historical data uploads. So essentially, our insights analytics platform is getting its data from the continuous uploads done by the monitor service running on the customer site. So we continuously upload data to Amazon S3, and this enables us to actually display the data in ControlUp Insights. Okay, so this is the architecture in a nutshell. Obviously, any follow-up questions, just contact our support or pre-sale guys. We also have full support for on-premises deployment modes. Okay, so if a prospect or a customer for any reason cannot work with a cloud-based solution, whether it's for compliance or other reasons, we enable the customers to install the full ControlUp stack on premises. This would mainly include the ControlUp on-premises server, a few databases hosted on a central SQL database, and our IOP server, which is essentially the Insights on-premises flavor. The rest of the components are similar to the hybrid cloud deployment module. Okay, so as usual with ControlUp, we don't waste your time with tons of slides. We'll just jump right into the live demo part. By the way, feel free to ask questions. You can use the GoToMeeting chat for that, and we will try to answer them during the webinar. So just as a brief agenda for this webinar, we're going to start with some of the major features we added in 7.2. The first one is our virtual experts, essentially a service that enables you to troubleshoot issues faster inside the real-time console. Next, we'll cover our brand new Nutanix AHV integration, which is the latest hypervisor we added support for in 7.2. We are then going to cover some pretty neat features we added in 7.2. This includes the highly anticipated single metric trigger. We have added support for new metrics in the process level, which enables you to see the disk I/O and network I/O per process, which is really great for all kinds of use cases. And finally, some NetScaler integration enhancements we added in 7.2. From there, we'll move on to some insights demos. I'm going to showcase our new right sizing report, which is really great. We have excellent feedback from the field about that. And finally, we'll cover the environment assessment, which is a new report that highlights KPIs collected from 30 days activity of the customer environment. And as promised, I'm going to quickly show you some of the new features that are going to be part of ControlUp 7.3. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump to the live demo. So you should see on my screen now the ControlUp 7.2 console. I'm going to do a brief overview of the console and what you're seeing here, especially for new guys out there. Okay, so let's see what we have here. On the left side, this is the tree containing all the managed objects, all the managed entities we cover with ControlUp. So starting from top to bottom, initially you can see the hypervisor tree. In here you will see all the hypervisor integrations you added into the ControlUp organization. As mentioned, we support the 4 major commercial hypervisors. VMware, XenServer, and Hyper-V were available before 7.2, and Nutanix Acropolis is a new integration available since 7.2. So I'm going to cover that a bit later today. Once the hypervisor is connected, it will populate the host view with the relevant hypervisor boxes. Again, it could be ESXi, Hyper-V, AHV, or XenServer. It will also populate the computers view with all the VMs we found from the hypervisor connection. The way we connect to hypervisors is quite simple. We do not require any agents. We simply connect to the remote web API service, whether it's, for example, if we're dealing with XenServer, with vSphere, we will connect to the vSphere web service SDK. So the only prerequisite would be defining the web service running on the vCenter and providing read-only credentials to that service. Once this is configured, that's it. We are fully integrated with vSphere. Moving forward, we have integration with Amazon, right? So anyone who is managing EC2 VMs, he can actually connect to the Amazon EC2 region and automatically enumerate EC2 instances and see cost and performance metrics in real time. We do support API level integration with Zen Desktop. Okay, again, the integration is quite simple. You simply point ControlUp to one of your brokers and provide read-only credentials, and that's pretty much it. From that moment on, we will continuously run 2 types of queries against the Zen Desktop site. One would be based on the OData REST API to get data from the monitor service, and the other would be PowerShell API to get health status for the brokers and some VDA and session data you will see later on. New in 7.1 is the NetScaler integration. Again, the same concept where we connect remotely to the API service. In this case, we're using the Nitro APIs that NetScaler exposes, which allows us to get health and performance data from NetScaler with very minimal footprint on the actual NetScaler box. We have added a few metrics in 7.2, which I'll cover a bit later down the line. And finally, once we cover all the external data sources, we have our very own agent running inside the guest OSs. So in 7.2, we support all the Windows flavors. This includes anything from Windows 7 up to Windows Server 2019. And you will see during the demo what kind of metrics we can get from the agent. This includes some pretty advanced metrics such as application load time, login duration metrics, latency, process IOPS, etc. The views is where you can actually consume the real-time data. So we have views for covering the hosts. We can see the computer data in real time. We see sessions, processes. We have storage views where we can see all the data stores which the different hypervisors exposes. Obviously, NetScalers. So everything can be reached via here to see the flat views. And obviously, we have drill downs which we'll cover once we reach the virtual expert demo. Okay, so this is in a nutshell the ControlUp real-time console. Now, I do want to start with one of the coolest new features in 7.2, and that would be the virtual expert assisted troubleshooting. Okay, so let's start with a live example here. You can see here in the host view that ES602 is currently experiencing very high I usage. It's actually more than 5,000 IOPS, which obviously caused the stress level to reach a critical state. Now, in 7.2, by the way, you can always double-click on the stress level column to see exactly which metrics are contributing to the load, which is really nice and makes understanding the stress level column much easier. And the newest addition is the ability to actually click on the problematic cell like I'm doing here. And the virtual expert will suggest to you guys the next drill down steps in order to find the root cause. Okay, so I'm going to actually go ahead and try and click the final drill down suggestion here. And ControlUp will automatically drill down all the way to the processes view and show me which process is actually causing the IO issue on the entire host. Okay, so again, it's pretty cool. With a single click, I can see the specific process on the specific session causing the issue all the way down, or in this case, up on the host experiencing the issue. Okay, so again, pretty cool. I'll show you one more time. I'm going back to the host level. I'm clicking on the relevant column here, and I can either drill down, double-click on the column, or drill down directly to the suggested last navigation step. If I go ahead and double-click on the column, you will see that ControlUp automatically navigates to the next drill down step, in this case, the VMs view, and it's showing me the VMs view running on this specific hypervisor, and it's automatically sorted by the most relevant column, in this case, the virtual read apps. So we can see that CRDSH01 is the offending VM consuming most of the IOPS on this specific hypervisor. I can either, again, click here and drill down directly to processes, or double-click the cell itself and drill down to the next suggested layer, in this case, sessions, and then again, double-click this highlighted cell here and actually drill down again to the process causing the issue. Okay, so again, the Virtual Expert in 7.2 offers a brand new way to intuitively find the root cause, either by taking you directly to the suggested view or by highlighting the most probable cause of the issue on the grid you're currently seeing. Okay, now one question which we have seen a lot with this feature is it customizable? Can you guys actually play with the drill down exercise and add your own drill down rules? So the answer is yes. You guys can go to settings, you can click on the contextual navigation button here, and you will see, and you can do two things. Okay, so first you can see the out-of-the-box community drill down rules. So for example, the one I've just shown you guys, I can go to the host view, and we have actually utilized the rule configured here. Okay, so if you add this, you can see that if I, as a ControlUp user, I am double-clicking on the host data store column, ControlUp will automatically drill down to the VMs view, sorted by, looking on the detail view IO preset, and sorted by the virtual discrete IOPS column. Okay, so this is an out-of-the-box rule. You don't have to configure it yourself. And as you can see here, we have quite a few out-of-the-box rules configured for all the relevant entities. And obviously, you can create your own. Okay, you can go here and add a new rule, select the relevant column you want to drill down on, select the relevant preset, sorting order, and you're good to go. Okay, so it's fully customizable. Now, I do want to highlight two more features that relate to the virtual expert concepts. One I've shown already is the fact that you can actually double-click the stress level and quickly see which metrics are contributing to the stress level, which is a great addition in 7.2. And there is another thing which I think quite fun, right? So let's go to the sessions view. As I mentioned before, we do monitor the log on duration activity for sessions, okay? You can see here that one of the sessions is experiencing a very high log on duration, almost 2 minutes, okay? So just like the stress level, I can highlight the log on duration cell and double click on it to actually see, again, which drill down metric, in this case, the group policy load time, is actually contributing to the high log on duration. So by double clicking the log on duration cell, I can actually see immediately that the group policy load time is the major culprit in this specific slow log on duration case. Okay, now I can tell you guys that one of our upcoming plans in the next ControlUp versions is to actually integrate our scripting mechanism, our SBA engine, with the virtual expert concept. So these days I can right-click the session and I can manually search for scripts related to this issue and go ahead and execute them in order to get some more info about why the group policy processing was really slow for this specific session, okay? But this was a manual step. What we're planning to do in the future as a sort of enhancement to the virtual expert concept is to actually, automatically understand that the root cause is slow group policy processing, and when you will click on this cell, we will automatically offer you to execute the relevant script to get more data. So this is planned down the line. Okay, so this was hopefully a brief but clear explanation of the new virtual expert concept. I'm going to move forward into the next major feature in 7.2. So as described before, we have added full support for the Nutanix Acropolis or AHV hypervisor. So I'm going to focus on the Nutanix cluster I have here. I want to show you how the connection string looks like. So it's quite similar to the other hypervisors connections we have. Again, it's an agentless operation. Nothing needs to be installed on the Nutanix boxes or the CSV VMs. All you need to do is point ControlUp to the Nutanix web service, provide the relevant credential set, and that's it. Now, once this is configured, you can connect to the Nutanix Acropolis system and see real-time data. So what we see here is that the different Nutanix hosts we have running in our small cluster. You can see metadata metrics like the hypervisor version, the uptime, the CPU model, the IP address of the management interface, BIOS versions, etc. And obviously we can see the real-time data, which includes CPU, RAM usage, data store IOPS, maintenance mode, and some pretty cool stuff about your hosts. And the same is true regarding the Nutanix VMs, right? So we both provide data about the regular VMs running on your Nutanix cluster, but we also provide data about the manager VMs, the CVMs, right? You can see them in here. Let's see if I can add them to the view. Just a sec, guys. Yeah, so you can see here, like, these would be the CVMs, right? These are the management VMs that are running on each Nutanix Acropolis box, and you have visibility to them just like any other VM you manage in ControlUp. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Another thing we added for Nutanix customers, which is not available out of the box in Prism, is the ability to actually enable or disable the host maintenance mode right from within the same interface. So no need to jump to any CLI or run PowerShell commands. You can just do it from here, which simplifies Nutanix management which is pretty clear from this specific state here. Now, another thing I want to mention is that our existing insights reports, which show data about hypervisors and VMs, are obviously compatible with Nutanix data, right? So anyone who will integrate ControlUp with his existing Nutanix cluster will immediately enjoy historical data and insights about both the hypervisors and the VMs themselves. Okay, so I'm now moving on to the other major features in ControlUp 7.2. So let's start with one of the most anticipated features, and that would be the advanced trigger, or what we call internally the single metric trigger. So before I showcase the new feature, I first want to kind of explain the limitation we had with incident triggers prior to 7.2. Okay, so prior to 7.2, the main, or I would say the only supported way to actually create an incident trigger and get, for example, an email notification if one of the metrics crossed the configure threshold was to go through the stress level incident trigger type, which is kind of complex and sometimes rather cumbersome. Okay, let me explain. So as I've shown you guys during the demo, we have a stress level column for each entity we manage ControlUp. And the stress level is essentially a weighted average or score, combining all the relevant columns affecting it in any given time, right? So for example, you can say that, the free space on the C drive, right? If it's below, I don't know, if it's below 1 gigabyte, then go ahead and, affect the stress level by a weight of 1, 2, or whatever, right? So if you want to get a notification regarding free space, then the only way to do it before 7.2 would be to configure the free space metric to affect the stress level, and then use a stress level based incident trigger to get an alert, which is quite cumbersome. Now, I'm really glad to report that in 7.2 all of this has been much simplified. Okay, so let's see how we did that. So essentially we added a brand new incident trigger type called advance. Okay, and let me show you a few examples of how we can use that to simplify things here. So let's start with the free disk space example. Okay. Okay, so in this case, I've actually created a rather simple incident trigger. The only thing I'm looking on here is, let me know. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong metric. Just a sec, guys. Okay, sorry, that's the one I was looking for. Okay, so what we can do with the new trigger type is essentially configure a pretty simple scenario, like something you see here, and basically add a single filter looking on one metric. Okay, in this case, the free space on system drive. So this incident trigger, the only thing it will look for, it will continuously monitor the free space on system drive metric, and once it becomes lower than 5 gigabytes, as configured here, it will trigger an alert. Okay, so no need to go through the stress level, no need to configure any kinds of weights or anything of that sort, and obviously you can configure the minimum duration. Okay, so not so relevant for free space, but for example, if you want to get a notification about high CPU usage, you can simply configure this new advanced trigger to watch over the CPU metric and report once it's crossing, for example, 90%, but you can configure here that it will trigger only if it was happening for more than 3 minutes, for example. Okay, so again, a very simple way to create alerts in ControlUp 7.2 by using the new advanced incident trigger type. Now, one of the questions we got from this, after some customers seen this feature is, can we actually configure incident triggers on text-based columns, right? Not only metrics. And I'm happy to say that the answer is yes. Okay, so let's look at another example in here. Let's look on Zen Desktop VDA registration. Okay, so by using the new advanced trigger, I can actually configure something similar to what you're seeing on screen here. Okay, so I can either do it with a simple filter like you see here, or you can configure the state to show a different state. Okay, so let me explain. What you're seeing in here is a trigger that will fire whenever the XD registration column for the VDA will switch to an unregistered data set. So again, this is a text-based column, but we can still use that to create an incident trigger in 7.2. So the incident trigger, the new incident trigger in 7.2 supports both performance metrics and text-based metrics, which we already saw a lot of customers using that to actually beef up their monitoring status in 7.2. And there is one other example I want to show you guys, which kind of show how simplified this is. Let's see if I can find that in here. Yeah, okay, so this is one of my favorite examples. So again, using the new advanced trigger type, I can simply create a trigger based on the session record. I told ControlUp to look for sessions who has any state before, but once specifically the logon duration column is reporting higher than 60 seconds logon duration, go ahead and create an incident and send me an email alert. Okay, so again, we can use this trigger type on any type of column you see in the console, whether it's performance-based or text-based, and create simplified alerts for your environment. Okay, I'm moving forward to another new feature in 7.2, probably one of my favorites because I was kind of involved in the research, I guess, and that would be the new process metrics. Okay, so let's look here real quick. So this is the ControlUp processes view you see here, and these are the new metrics we added in 7.2. So it's important to mention that before 7.2, we also had IO metrics for processes, but the thing is, they were aggregated metrics that were aggregating both the network and disk IO. So there was no easy way to distinguish between network-related IO and disk-related IO, and this is now completely solved in 7.2. As you can see here, we have the disk reads and writes kbps for each process, and the network send receive kbps per process. Okay, so let's try and generate one quick example in here. I'm going to open. I'll try to open a YouTube video here. Let's do it live, the ControlUp way. So I'm going to browse to YouTube. Hopefully you won't see something embarrassing in my feed here. Let's look for any kind of 4K trailers. Hopefully they will generate some nice traffic here. So what I'm hoping to show here is that by using the new feature, we can actually find that the IO generated by this process is not disk bound, but rather network bound, or both, depending on the way the app works. So let's go ahead and try to find this specific iExplore process here. And we can use our built-in browser URL feature to actually see which process we're dealing with. And you can see it here. Okay, so you can see here like the deviation between the network usage and the disk IO usage. You can see that obviously most of the generated traffic is actually network received, right? Because this is essentially a download stream from the network to the browser running here in my data center. Okay, so again, new feature in 7.2, easy way to distinguish between disk IO and network IO on the process level. Okay, moving forward, probably the last feature I want to highlight in 7.2 would be the enhanced NetScaler support. We have added a few interesting features to our NetScaler integration, so I'll try to cover them real quick. So first, one of the things we added is brand new high availability monitoring for NetScaler. So as you can see here, we now have brand new columns like the HA system state, whether it's up or down. We can see if the node we're dealing with is the primary or the secondary. Oops, sorry. I think we have a few more columns which are not displayed by default. That's in here. Oh, sorry. These are part of the new load balancers column. Okay, so A, new high availability metrics for NetScaler. B, we have added new actions, right? So in 7.2, when you right-click NetScaler load balancers, you can actually disable or enable the load balancer directly from here. We will run for you the Nitro API call, and we'll obviously show the state of the load balancers in real time in the grid. Okay, so this is pretty cool. And another thing I want to show you in regards to NetScaler is a pretty massive work we did by enhancing our script-based actions. Okay, so I think some of them are installed here. You can see some of them running here. So we now have new script-based actions that can, can get new data about the NetScaler, whether it's the license information, some more advanced statistics, etc. For those who are not familiar with the script-based action feature, the only thing you guys need to do as a customer is click on the script-based action button here, and then you can actually browse our online community store. For example, browse for NetScaler specific scripts, and just click on Add Scripts, and then it will be available as a right-click action from within the console. Okay, so these are the primary NetScaler enhancements in 7.2. Okay, so this was a quick tour of the brand new feature in 7.2. Again, as a highlight, the brand new virtual expert assisted troubleshooting, Nutanix AHV integration, the new advanced triggers, which enable you to simplify alerting by configuring a single metric as a condition, the process disk and network I/O, and finally the NetScaler enhancements we've just seen. Okay, so I do want to move forward with the insights related features. Okay, so let's log on to Insights here. And again, just as a reminder, Insights is our web-based historical reporting and analytics solution. I'm going to fire up the solution. For those who are not familiar with Insights, the initial page is called Top Insight. That's essentially a dashboard showing you the major KPIs from the last 24 hours of activity. Okay, so this includes stuff like a unique number of sessions, VMs or hosts with high CPU peaks, the most popular apps. So basically a myriad of widgets you're seeing on screen right now. It's a great way to get kind of a high-level overview of what's happening in your environment. And again, this is based on the previous day activity. Now, recently we added 2 new reports, and that's what I'm going to cover. That's what I'm going to cover in this webinar. Okay, so the first new report is the environment assessment. In here, we are actually aggregating the last 30 days of data and then providing some really high-level but excellent stats about your environment. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover that a bit before we jump into the sizing recommendation report. So first, let's describe the data set. So as mentioned, ControlUp Insights actually crunch in real time the last 30 days worth of data coming in from the monitor service, and then it's displaying a set of widgets based on the data sources that includes interesting KPIs and findings. Okay, let's start with the top bar. The top bar is a simple, it's kind of a simple overview of the data set we're looking at. Okay, so over the last month in our specific ControlUp corporate environment, we have seen 12 hosts, 12 hypervisors. We have seen a bit more than 500 VMs, almost 100 managed computers. Managed computers are essentially computers that has the ControlUp agent running. Okay, we can see the unique number of client names and unique number of users. This is really relevant for anyone dealing with per device or per user licensing. We can see the total number of sessions and the total number of apps running in our environment. If we scroll down a bit, we can start seeing the actual widgets based on the data. Okay, so we have trends widget, which will show the major performance metrics for each entity we cover. So here you can see, for example, what would be the average CPU user across the entire host population we're monitoring. So you can see in our case, we're firmly around 50%. Same is true for RAM, for I/O, and for network usage. The same widget exists also for computers. And the same is also available for sessions, but for sessions, rather than showing you the CPU RAM I/O footprint, we actually show you some interesting KPIs that are more relevant for end user computing environments. So you can see the peak concurrent active sessions over time. You can see the average login duration, again, over the last 30 days. You can see the overall bandwidth, available bandwidth for sessions, and you can see the average latency. Okay, and each of these, it's important to note that each of these metrics here can be drilled down further to the relevant report. Okay, so log on duration will actually drill down to the session activity report, where you can see the log on duration stats on a per session basis over the same time frame. Okay, and the same is true for if you want to see the host CPU usage over time, you can again click on the relevant icon in the top in the environment assessment report and drill down to see the additional data. Okay, so the same is true for any of the reports we see here. We have interesting widgets which will show the distribution of OSs or hypervisor versions, as you can see here. This is a nice way to see if you guys are still running maybe you know, an older Windows OS or an unsupported hypervisor version in your environment. This widget here will show the top apps by popularity. So you can see for each app you can see two dimensions. One would be the number of unique users, and the other one would be the number of unique instances. You can see in our case we run a lot of command line and PowerShell. You know, we have some Java apps and some other stuff you can see here. Obviously, in a more traditional Office environment, you will see probably Office apps or your CRM apps, etc. So now, obviously, we don't have time to cover everything in here, but as you can see, this is a pretty high level and yet quite a robust data set that enables you to cover your environment in real time over the last 30 days and find interesting findings. The last thing I want to mention here is the top consumers. Okay, so we have here top consumers widgets divided by different entities. So that would be the host, computers, users, and applications. So for each entity, let's look on users, for example. I can click on the relevant metric, in this case, logon duration, and see over the last 30 days who suffered from the slowest logons. So we have a few guys in here, and the same is relevant for computers, right? So we can click on RAM and see which computers over the last 30 days were utilizing the highest amount of RAM in my environment. Okay, and the same is true for host and applications. So a pretty nifty way to see the top consumers over the last 30 days. Okay, I'm going to move forward into the sizing accommodation report. This is by far my favorite report in Insights. I think that after we'll see this 5 minutes demo, you will agree with me. So what we're doing here, again, we're looking on the last 30 days worth of data, and we essentially try to do two things. Hey, show you in high level what's your over provisioning state in regards to CPU and RAM in your managed estates, and B, we show you the specific recommendations on a per workload basis. Okay, so let's start with the high level data. So again, we're looking on 1 month worth of data, as you can see here, and the screen is divided to CPU sizing widgets and RAM sizing widgets. Okay, so let's look on a few interesting KPIs. You can see in my case, out of almost 100 managed computers, we can see that 71%, which is a bit more than 70 computers in my case, are over provisioned from a CPU perspective. Only 22% are right-sized and 7% are under provisioned. Okay, and you can see the same numbers from a RAM perspective. Okay, what we're showing here, which is pretty interesting, is essentially how much RAM you can actually get back to the cluster, right? Because we are obviously not utilizing almost a bit more than 300 gigabytes in here, and all of this can be brought back to the cluster and be claimed by the other VMs, assuming you will follow our right sizing recommendation here. Okay, we also show you how your organization is ranked compared to the other organizations we have in our database. Okay, so in our case, I'm pretty good, so I'm better than almost 60% of the organizations. I can tell you that based on our research finding, more than 90% of the organization are massively over provisioning their environments, and I'll cover that in a bit. Okay, so again, on the top part of the report, this is high-level metrics about your CPU and RAM over provisioning. If we scroll down a bit, we will get this grid, which shows you the recommendation on a per VM or per workload basis. Let's sort this based on RAM recommendation. You can see here this IOP LS server, LS01 server. Let's see what we see here. Okay, so first let's look on the suggestions. So we see that currently this VM has 12 CPUs assigned and 32 gigs of RAM, and you can see our suggested numbers in here. So we suggest downsizing this VM to 6 virtual CPUs and downsize it to 14 gigs of RAM. And on the lower part here, you can actually see the justification for this, right? So which stats are you based on that actually allows us to be really confident about our suggestions. So what you see here is the CPU usage over time. This graph here is the actual CPU usage. The blue line is the number of assigned CPUs, and the dotted line is what we suggest. So as you can see, over the past month, we, like only once or twice, we actually reached the 6 CPU usage, which is a great justification to go ahead and downsize this VM. And the same is true for RAM usage. You can see that we have 32 gigs assigned, but we never crossed the 14 gigs RAM usage. Okay, so this is, again, a really great way to see which VMs are massively over-provisioned and go ahead and fix that. And then you can go back in here and see that indeed you reclaimed proper resources, and now less VMs are over-provisioned. Okay, now, as I mentioned, we actually did a pretty massive research on this data. I'm going to send you via the chat right now a link to download our white paper. Let's see if I can do it here. Okay. Yeah, okay, so I just sent you guys a link in the GoToMeeting chat about this provisioning white paper. Essentially, we studied anonymous data from all the workloads we are monitoring. We just took the CPU and RAM usage versus the assigned resources. And as mentioned, we have found that, tons of them are way over provisioned. So go ahead, download the white paper, read the data, and obviously, go ahead and use the sizing recommendation in your environment to actually optimize your own estate. Okay, it's pretty easy as you can see it. The only thing you need to do is install the monitor service, make sure data is uploaded, and then consume the sizing recommendations you can find here. Okay, so these are the 2 new reports in Insights. One small note for those who have seen this report before. Just recently, in the latest Insights version, which was deployed, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have added a folder selector to these reports. So now you can actually focus on a specific data set, and Insights will actually filter the data to show you the recommendations only for that specific selected folder in here. Okay, so it's a small enhancement to the size recommendation report. Okay, so as promised, I am going to show you a sneak peek of what's coming in 7.3. So let's do that. Okay, so what you're seeing on screen right now, this is an alpha version of ControlUp 7.3. I want to show you the 2 major features we are working on, and I think it's going to be super cool for anyone managing, let's say, a more hybrid environment back in his network. So the 2 major features are VMware vSAN integration, and for the first time ever, we now support Linux environments, and we can actually show in real time process data and in-guest data for Linux workloads. Okay, let's start with vSAN. So I guess a lot of you guys have heard about vSAN. vSAN is a rather popular HCI technology from VMware. We know that it's a rapidly growing market for VMware. We've seen lots of customers starting to use that instead of traditional storage. So in 7.3, we are, I think, one of the first vendors to fully integrate with the vSAN APIs, which enables us to see vSAN just like any other data store in ControlUp. Okay, so if you go to the storage view, you can now see vSAN-based data stores with all the regular metrics you have seen. You've seen from other hypervisors, but the cool thing here is that we have added some pretty interesting metrics which are specific for vSAN. Okay, so this would include things like the vSAN free capacity, vSAN congestion and outstanding IOs, and lots of stuff like the vSAN health, which enables you to see what's the current health of the specific vSAN storage you're looking at. Okay, so it's a pretty massive integration. Anyone who's using vSAN or planning to use vSAN is going to enjoy this real-time visibility into vSAN-based workloads. Now, the other major feature in 7.3 is Linux integration. So let me show what I mean here. So here you can see, for example, this would be a CentOS Linux server running MySQL. And for the first time ever, we can now drill down into a Linux-based OS and actually see sessions, processes, and logical disk in live. Okay, so this is quite exciting. This is the first time we're showing something like this. And there you go, right? I can drill down into any Linux-based CentOS or Red Hat workload, and I can see in real time the processes running inside the Linux OS. This includes all the major metrics you're familiar with from the Windows world. So that would be CPU usage, memory usage, disk I/O, and some specific Linux metrics like the nice priority and the PPID. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I think anyone managing an estate who also includes Linux servers like Apache servers or MySQL or why not will enjoy this this unique ability to see both Windows servers and Linux servers in the same screen and drill down to the process level in real time. So super cool. And obviously we also integrated the logical disk monitoring. So for each Linux workload, we can also see the Linux partitions with both the regular metrics we know from Windows, like capacity and I/O usage and I/O latency, and we have also added some specific Linux metrics or metadata like the mount points, the eNodes, etc. So stay tuned. This is 7.3 vSAN Linux, and we'll have a few other things planned. So hopefully you find this exciting as I am. Okay, so time to wrap up, I guess. I really want to thank you for your time. Hopefully you've seen the brand new feature in 7.2 and are excited about them as I am. I do want to remind everyone that we offer a fully functioning 21 days free trial. Simply go to our website and download ControlUp. It's simple as that. I want to thank everyone for joining. Thanks a lot, and we'll meet on the next webinar. Have a great day.